Good morning, everyone. It's Brenda Quintana, and I am here this morning. We're going to do a Casing Tuesday card, but I'm going to wait for some people to pop on to see if they are live. And I also want to test out my new microphone, and I want to make sure that everyone can hear me well before I move on to actually creating my card. So if you're on here, you just popped on here, can you please let me know how my sound is? I've been testing it with a new microphone and I am not 100% sure how it will sound to you. And I've tested it with my headphones, but of course there's nothing like doing it live and seeing if it actually works. So I hope I'm always trying to improve my videos. And so I got a new microphone this week and I've got it set up in a certain way. And of course microphones always have, you can have a great microphone, but if you don't have it set up right, that could be a bad thing too. So okay, it sounds like my sound is okay. So I don't know if you've had videos with me before. You can let me know if it's worse, better, the same. That's all I want to know. And then I will jump right into my card. So today's Tuesday, and my landscapers were just here doing the yard, and I was like thinking, oh yay, they just arrived just in time for my Facebook Live, and it's going to be really hard for everyone to hear, but looks like they buzzed through really quickly. The lawn is not growing very quickly right now, so that's a good thing because they can be in and out of here really quickly. And I had this morning, I had these little, there are these little purple flowers that seem like spring flowers that shouldn't even be growing in fall. And they're growing just on the side of the patio. And I was like, oh my gosh, they're going to mow those down. But I don't think they did. I think they hit one of the little heads, but I think I still have one flower left. So afterwards, I'm going to go out there and photograph them. I went out there and photographed them, but they were still a little closed. It's not quite bright enough for them to be open yet. But I saw them yesterday, and I was going to take a photograph, and then I just completely forgot. So I always like surprise animals and surprise flowers. They always make me smile. So I hope they're still there when I get out there later. All right, guys, I hope you're having a good day so far. It's Casing Tuesday, and that's the day when we take a card out of the catalog and we give it a makeover. And why is this such a great thing? Well, because if you're a card maker, whether you are new to card making or whether you are advanced, it's a starting point. And for us not experts, I shouldn't call myself an expert, for people that have been doing this for a while, they have a starting point, so it makes making a card faster. For people that are new, they have a layout, a template, a blueprint, some ideas, some place to start. And so it gets us looking at the catalog in a different way because the catalog has samples throughout it. So if you can do that with one card, you can do it with all cards. You can take a card and bring it down to its basic shapes and then use that to create other cards with. And you'll find that when you do this, you will be creating cards that, even though they are based on the same shapes or maybe even the same style, they will look different. So I love that. It's a great way to start creating cards. So let's have a look at the card that we have today. It's this one right here. I like this layout. It's a very easy layout. You've kind of got your base card, you've got a middle layer, and then you've kind of got a smaller layer. That's a greeting layer in this case, but you could switch them out. You could put the visual, like a picture in the center, a small one, and then you could have other things on the outside. I also kind of follow this blueprint. I did put my greeting right in the middle. So here is the sketch. And so this just kind of gives you an idea of what your layers could be. You don't have to follow this exactly, but it's kind of just a good sense of generally where your layers could be. My layers are slightly different, but that is just taking liberties with what I have and how I wanted to create the card. Okay, so let's have a look. It sounds like my sound is okay. All right. Okay. Well, that is awesome because now I'm going to switch my camera and I'm going to show you my card for today. And let me just make sure my mic stayed. Okay. And I'm going to move my mic over a bit so hopefully it still tracks my voice. And hopefully it's not picking up too much of the background noise. There's a lawnmower just coming through right now, so oh well. So much for them being done and gone. Here is my card for today. And I used some embossing folders from the holiday catalog. You can see it's a set of 2 embossing folders. Let me pull up the name. It is the Wrapped in Texture embossing folders. Okay, so these 2 work in conjunction. I have one in the back and one in the foreground. And don't you just love how that metallic picked up that texture? Isn't that pretty? I just love that. So I thought today I made this all in green, because I have a new tutorial coming out on Friday that uses garden green and real red. And so I wanted to make cards that matched what I'm going to do on Friday. And so I made this one in garden green, and I'm going to make the one that I'm doing on camera today in real red. But you can just substitute out whatever colors you like. All right, I'm also using, these are called the Ornate Frames dies. And then for the majority of this project or card, I'm using the gift wrapped bundle. And if you follow along, you'll know that our bundles are priced right now at 10% off. So if you buy this stamp set, they're not 10% off the price in the catalog, but they are priced 10% off of the 2 full price. So if you buy these separately, and they are a certain price, and if you buy them together, they are 10% off. So it's the bundled price. I really love this stamp set in conjunction with this gift bow punch, because it creates that beautiful little bow. And you know, sometimes it's hard to tie a bow perfectly over and over and over again. So this is kind of a nice little alternative. These bows just look fabulous stamped, and then you can just punch them out. They're very quick. All right, let's move these along. Oh, and I should mention I'm using the gift wrap bundle on my Friday project too. Okay, so let's start off with this middle layer. And I went ahead and I already die cut the 2 pieces I needed from the Ornate Frames dies. This is a piece in Very Vanilla, and this is a piece in Real Red. And I'm going to take the stamp, one of the stamps from that gift wrapped stamp set, and I'm going to take my Real Red ink pad, and I'm just going to go ahead and stamp. I'm going to stand and stamp because when I sit down, I can't get a very good view from up above to make sure that I am straight. That looks pretty good. And oops, let's just leave that open for a second because I'm going to come in and use it again. So I'm just going to glue this with some Tombow to the center right here. Okay, so that makes just a really, really pretty layer, doesn't it? Okay, and then let's go and do the stamping for the bow. And I've got my bow already on a block right here. And I'm just gonna need a piece of Real Red. So I'm going to stamp Real Red on Real Red. It's going to be a little bit subtle. And then I'll use my punch. Make sure it's centered. And then punch it. It has some additional little pieces that are going to fly at you. I'm not using those right now. And then here is the little bow that comes from there. So that's all the stamping that there is on that card. Pretty simple. And then I'm going to take a piece of Real Red cardstock, and this measures 5.5 by 4 1/4 inches. And I'm going to take another piece. This is a piece of the metallic cardstock that we have in the holiday catalog, and this measures 4.5 by 2.5. And I'm going to emboss both of these pieces. So let me bring in my Stamp and Cut and Emboss machine, and we're going to bring it down to the base platform, number 1. And then I've got my embossing folders, and I'm going to grab my first embossing folder. I hope you can see the pattern that I'm using here. And I've got my Real Red cardstock. And what I'm going to do is I'm embossing the center stretch of this piece of Real Red. So I just want to make sure that it is straight. Clamp it down. I'm going to take one of my plates and put it down, and then I'll take my second plate and then I will run that through. You can't see this, but I'm cranking right here off to the side. It just cranks through. Okay. Got lots of static in here today. So there is my Real Red piece. And then I'm going to use my other embossing folder and run through with the metallic. So we've got that pattern. And we have 2 different types of embossing folders. These are our thinner or regular embossing folders. So that's why I'm using this particular sandwich, the base platform, and then 2 number 3 plates. If we're doing the thicker embossing folder, that's a different sandwich. But for these ones, that's the sandwich we use. And look at how pretty that is. It just catches the light. Anytime you emboss metallics, it just turns out wonderfully. Okay, so let me grab my Real Red piece and we'll start to put this card together. I've got a thick, very vanilla cardstock card base, and that was just 8.5 by 5.5, and then I scored it in half at the 4 1/4 inch mark. And I'm going to grab some Tombow and just put it on the back of this piece, and then just add it to the front. So the reason I chose a light card base, I could have gone with Real Red, but this way, if I want to stamp or write on the inside of this piece, I don't have to put an extra piece of very vanilla or anything in there. I can just write right on top of there. So you have a choice. I mean, you could have done like a Real Red base and then just take just a slightly smaller piece of lighter color cardstock so that you could write on it. But I decided to do it like this. And then we're going to take this metallic piece. It bows a little bit when it goes through the machine, but the nice thing about metallics is you can bend them back into straightness. And I want to make sure I put enough Tombow on here because, first of all, the back of this paper is kind of glossy. And also I've got bumps on here, so it's going to have a little harder time sticking. So I just want to make sure that there is enough Tombow. It will eventually get tacky and stick well better over time. You're going to make sure that you don't try and bump this around too much until the glue has dried. So basically just stick it right in the center and then press it down. And say dry, 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 dry. It's going to take a little bit. All right, then we're going to take some dimensionals and we're going to add it to the back of here. 1, 2, 3. And then 1, 2, 3. Move the backings. Oh, I think I'm going to need to stand up to make sure that this is centered. Okay, I think my metallic cardstock is still kind of wanting to move. So another alternative for adhesive for the back of this would be something like Terran tape. This Tombow will stick eventually. It's just got to dry just a little bit before it is tacky and not wet enough to be manipulated around. But if you're worried, you could use some Terran tape and that might hold better. Okay, and then for this little bow, I'm going to also use 2 dimensionals. And I'll put them on the back, just on that part, and then move these guys off. And then I'll stick that up top here. And so these little guys are going to be on top of the greeting just a little bit on top of this layer. And then finally, I'm going to use some gilded gems. And let me just break a little piece off of this putty because it got a little bit too putty-ish. Let me move that a little bit and then pick it up. I'm going to put that down here. I'm going to take if you move them a bit, then they can come off of the surface a little bit. And then I'll put one maybe about there. And then this little guy right here. I'm going to put right in between some of the little embossed bumps so it's not sitting right on top of the bump. And that is all there is to my card. It was not a hard card to make at all. So there are the 2 cards. Are you a red fan or a green fan? So of course red is maybe a little bit more, pops a little bit more. Green is a little bit more, looks a little bit more like nature, but I think there's a place for both of them. But on Friday, I'm going to have some matching boxes to go with these cards. So I think that will be kind of fun. So I kind of kept a theme going this week. Okay, I'm popping over here. Let me bring my microphone over. I hope my sound lasted the whole time and was good the whole time. Okay. Mary says she thinks the red is awesome. I like both. You know, green can be a little bit more calm. I think greens and blues are calming, and reds and oranges have like more energy, and so there's always that difference, right? Okay, I'm going back and I'm going to just check your comments. Good morning to everyone who's joined me today. And I want to remind you that when you order from me, you can get a free tutorial. This month I have this little gift box, and it also functions as a tea light holder. That's my October tutorial, but whenever you purchase from me, you can choose a tutorial from a different month too. I just try and have a new tutorial every month, and I try and change them up. Last month I had a Hershey's acorn, and then the month before that I had some Christmas trees. And so I just want to give everyone a variety of different things to choose from. So this was my tutorial from this month. And so when you place an order with me, just as long as it's over $15, you can choose one of my tutorials for free, and I really appreciate you. Let me just see if there's anything else I need to tell you. All the supplies that I used today you can find over on my blog. Just look down in the description of this video and there will be a link that will take you over to the blog. It has still photos of what I did today, as well as later on it will be updated with a direct link to the video, so if you need to play that back again, that will be there. Down at the bottom of all my blog posts is a supply list, so you just click on anything on that supply list and it will take you over to the store, which will have more information about the product available for you. And if you love Casing Tuesday, if you love this concept and you want to join us, please join us over on our Facebook group. We've got a lot of members, and every month, every week we post our cards over there. And so you can join us. It's not just me making cards. You can post your card over there too. And I think that's great because that way we get to share all of our different creations and see what we can do with that same layout. All right, I think I've covered everything today and I don't see any questions. My card was pretty straightforward today. Amy says she had 34 degrees this morning. Brr. That's what we had this weekend. We woke up on, I think it was Sunday morning, and it was, okay, for those of you who do Celsius, it was +1, which is about 34 degrees in Fahrenheit. And so I put on my down jacket and a hat and mitts, and we went for our walk. We didn't see too many people out there. I think people aren't quite used to that weather being so cold, and they knew it was going to get warmer later. So we had the trail to ourselves in the morning. So that was a nice thing to be out early, and we certainly have the gear so that we aren't cold. But 34 is cold. It's kind of a shock to the system, isn't it? Right? Barbara says she's expecting 8 to 10 inches of the S word today. So we do not want to talk about the S word until later on into the season. Not in October. No. It's the weather phenomenon that cannot be named early on, right? No. I'm sorry, Barbara. That sucks. Okay. I'm just going through to see if there's anything else. Seems like people like the red. And Betty said my sound was great the entire time. That's good to hear, because you want to know that the new thing is working, right? Okay, Dee has a question. Dee, I love you. You always have questions. That's so awesome. Dee asks a question. She says, I have a hard time knowing how many dimensionals to use. I tend to use too many. Is there a formula for using them? No, not really. It's kind of what you feel like you should use. So if it's a large layer, you probably have to use more, but like kind of spread out. For this, like 3 dimensionals, because you want to support the ends and the middle. Say I was like doing like a big layer, like maybe the gold layer, I'd probably put 1 on each of the corners. I'd probably want to put at least 2 in the middle. So I probably wouldn't use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I would probably use about 6 for the gold layer. If I was being really, really generous, I'd probably use about 8. That's probably about it that I would use. And I would probably then put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then in the center, I'd put 7, 8. So that's probably the most I would put on for a layer like that. It depends too, like how how flimsy your cardstock is. Sometimes if I'm going to do, say that gold layer was now a designer series paper layer. Okay. So what I might do if it was just a designer series paper layer that I was popping up, what I would probably do is back the designer series paper with a piece of cardstock to give it more stability. Just because if it wouldn't matter how many dimensionals you put back there, if it's a light paper and it's going through the mail and it gets squished down, then it might not hold its shape. It might bow a little bit there. So I would maybe think about adding some stability behind your layer rather than adding like a ton more dimensionals. But that's probably just my preference. But I think over time you just have to kind of work out what your comfort zone is. Also, dimensionals aren't super expensive, so it's not like you're, having to spend like, hundreds of dollars just to back up your layers. So that's kind of my formula. Corners, maybe center if it's a long one, and maybe in the middle if I need to. That's a long-winded answer, isn't it? But I love your questions, Dee. Thank you for asking that. So anyway, I hope you guys have a great week, and you can catch me Friday on my YouTube channel. And if you want to check out my YouTube channel, if you click on over to my blog and click on YouTube, you will be able to, or videos, you'll be able to subscribe to my channel over there and get notifications if you want to. All right, guys, have a great week, and I will see you Friday. Bye-bye.